We wake up every day and trust that the world makes sense. We trust that our bridges will hold weight, that our banking apps won't suddenly hallucinate our savings away, and that 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. We live in a comfortable, defined, single-threaded illusion. But what if I told you that the foundation of our reality isn't solid concrete? It's actually held together by a fragile agreement, a polite handshake where we all agree not to look at the cracks. Today I want to talk about the most dangerous concept in existence. It's a mathematical glitch that, if you push it hard enough, threatens to unravel the logic of the entire universe. This is the story of the void. This discovery didn't happen in a particle accelerator or a university library. It began in the most unglamorous of think tanks, the toilet. I was sitting there, a captive audience to mundane, having exhausted my news feed. I was reduced to reading the back of an air freshener can. Isobutane, propane, fragrance. As my eyes glazed over these chemical warnings, my mind detached from the digital noise. And in that silence, a single dangerous thought intruded. It wasn't about the chemistry in the can. It was about the structure of the space around it. The question was simple. What actually happens when you divide 1 by 0? Now, I'm not talking about the high school algebra answer. We all know the red ink on the test paper. We know the calculator's error message. I am asking about the ontological reality of that interaction. If you take a tangible object, let's call it a 1, and you force it to interact with the void, the 0, where does the information go? Most people flush this thought away with the rest of the waste. But for a system architect or a philosopher, this isn't just a math problem. It is a glimpse into the source code of reality. If you ask standard mathematics what happens, it gives you this word, undefined. To the uninitiated, that sounds like an answer. But it isn't. It is a do not enter sign. It is a regulatory prohibition, not a description of the terrain. It's the authorities putting up yellow tape around a crime scene and saying, nothing to see here. But why? Why is this specific operation banned? Why are we terrified of defining this interaction? To understand the fear, we have to understand the philosophy of formalism, championed by mathematicians like David Hilbert. To a formalist, mathematics isn't the language of the universe. It's just a game played with symbols according to strict rules. Consistency is the only victory condition. Imagine a chessboard. If a specific move, like dividing by 0, breaks the game board or knocks over the pieces, the formalist simply bans the move. They prioritize the safety of the game over the reality of the outcome. But this stands in stark contrast to realism. The realist argues that mathematics describes the physical universe. And here is the problem. The universe contains objects, that's our 1. And the universe contains void or empty space, that's our 0. Therefore, if these two things exist in physics, the interaction between an object and the void must have a definable outcome, however catastrophic. By settling for undefined, we are choosing the safety of the map over the truth of the territory. So what is the catastrophe? Why are the formalists so scared? They are hiding from a demon known as the principle of explosion. In logic, if you allow a single contradiction to exist, like 1 is equal to 0, then every statement in the system becomes provably true. Follow the logic. If we allow 1 divided by 0, we can prove 1 is equal to 0. If 1 is equal to 0, then 2 is equal to 1. If 2 is equal to 1, then the moon and cheese are the same thing. Therefore, logically, the moon is made of cheese. To ensure our banking software doesn't hallucinate and our bridges don't fall down, standard math sacrifices completeness. It chooses a consistent world over a complete one. Of course, humans are curious. We tried to build vehicles to drive past the do not enter sign. Computer scientists and mathematicians developed patches like transreal arithmetic and wheel theory. They invented concepts like nullity and the pit to hold the result of division by 0. But let's be honest, these aren't solutions. They are syntactic sugar for a system crash. They are the mathematical equivalent of a try-catch block in code that suppresses a fatal error without fixing the bug. They tell us where the number went, into the bin, but they don't explain what happened to its identity. To truly understand the glitch, we have to stop looking at the math and start looking at the types. This is a category error. Standard math treats 0 as a number, a point on a line. That is the mistake. Ontologically, 0 is a container. 1 represents content, the water, the object. 0 represents structure, the cup, the vacuum. When we attempt 1 divided by 0, we aren't doing math. We are asking how much structure is equal to this much content. It's a type mismatch. We are trying to compare an object against the medium in which it exists, and the system shatters. Let's visualize this mechanically with the spoon paradox. Division is just a form of measurement, repeated subtraction. We are asking, how many times can I subtract x from y? Imagine you have a bucket with 1 liter of water. I hand you a spoon that holds exactly 0 liters. I tell you to empty the bucket. You dip the spoon. You lift it. You discard the contents. You have removed exactly 0 water. The bucket remains at 1. You can do this 1,000 times. You can do it 1,000,000,000 times. The state of the bucket never changes. This reveals that 1 divided by 0 isn't a value. It is an infinite loop of action. It is a process that runs forever without ever altering the reality of the numerator. In computer science, we call this the halting problem. The machine enters a state where time moves forward, but the system is frozen. The answer isn't a number. The answer is eternal stagnation. But if we look deeper, it gets even darker. 0 acts as an event horizon for information. Think about multiplication. If I take 5 and multiply it by 0, I get 0. If I take 1,000 and multiply by 0, I get 0. The unique identity of the number is destroyed. It is compressed into the void. Division is an attempt to reverse this. It asks the void to yield back the number that created it. It is an attempt to undelete history. But the history is gone. This is irreversible information loss. Since the unique information of the number 1 was obliterated when it touched the void now contains all numbers and no numbers simultaneously. We are fighting the second law of thermodynamics. We are trying to reverse entropy, and the universe does not allow that. So if we reject the undefined label as cowardly, what is the result? If the information has been scattered rather than destroyed, we arrive at the multi-reality conclusion. When a definite value is forced to divide by the void, the constraints that define a single reality dissolve. The result is not nothing. It is everything. It is the total set of all possible realities. Just like a quantum particle exists in all states until measured, 1 divided by 0 represents the uncollapsed potential of the entire number system. The undefined error is simply our human logic crashing because it cannot process infinite truths simultaneously. I put the air freshener can down. Isobutane, propane. The words hadn't changed, but the room felt heavier. I realized I wasn't just in a tiled room. I was suspended in a fragile construct of logic that works only because we agree not to look at the cracks. We agree not to divide by 0. We agree to keep the do not enter signs up, lest we see the universe in its terrible, infinite entirety. So I flushed the toilet, and I stepped back out into the comfortable, defined illusion we call reality. Thank you.